You can hate me for this, and I know it's going to make you uncomfortable, but the truth is what you need to hear. You got a child-centered home, you're doing it wrong. And it doesn't matter if you're a blended family or not. It should be God, your spouse, your children. You start doing anything other than that, you're operating in the flesh. What you sow in the flesh, you will reap the destructive desires of the flesh. When you are choosing to have a child-centered home, you're reversing God's order and God's plan for a biblical marriage. And what you're doing is you're operating in the flesh. In other words, you're saying, God, I got a better way of handling this. Or God, I'm not trusting you enough to give me wisdom and peace and discernment in this area of my life. So I'm going to take control of this. You've got an idol in your life. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, and Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. Both of those verses call for parents to discipline and guide, not to appease and enable their children. When you are making your kids a priority over your husband, whether it's their biological father or their stepfather, you're setting your kids up for disaster. You're teaching them that the world revolves around them, and that is not how life operates. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 15. And I know, coming from experience, Jennifer and I had seasons in our life when the kids were young. Your 30s are the hardest part of your life. I'm telling you right now, as somebody's looking back, the 30s are your hardest time of your life. But when you are prioritizing your kids over your spouse, you're actually weakening your marriage. And you think you're trying to do the best for your kids and give them everything. But when you weaken your marriage, you're jeopardizing them losing everything. This is so important, especially for blended families, because God's word doesn't differentiate between age, gender, blended families or not. God's standard is God's standard, period. You got a 100% chance of success if you're willing to do it God's way. But recent studies show 60 to 70% of blended families end in divorce because of unresolved parenting and loyalty issues. In other words, I love you, but I had this child before you, and even though I made a commitment before God that I was going to honor you and serve you, I'm not willing to go to this level, this depth of relationship, this commitment, and that's a sin. I know it's a letting go thing, and especially for a mother, it's very difficult because you want to protect, but I'm telling you, you got to let that go, and you got to go all in with God. You can't be riding two horses with one rear end. You can't be trying to ride the fence of culture and flesh and biblical standard. It's either one or the other. There is no gray area. And oftentimes, your lack of breakthrough, your constant setbacks, is because your lack of obedience. I realize I'm talking a foreign language to somebody who may not be spiritually mature, but I'm going to tell you right now, whether you are or not, that's not an excuse for whether or not you make a commitment to following through with God's design, God's will in your life. A child-centered home is playing Russian roulette with your future. I'm telling you. Your greatest ministry opportunity, your greatest chance to store up treasures in heaven is your spouse. Jesus told the disciples that whatever you did for the least of these, clothed me, gave me food, gave me water, you did for me too. That's storing up treasures in heaven when you're serving your spouse, not serving your children above your spouse. Operate in biblical principle and see if you don't get a turnaround in your relationship. I know you're saying, I don't know how to do that. I can't physically do that. I'm so crazy about my children. James chapter 4, verse 8. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Jesus is telling us, stop playing games with the flesh and the spirit. Operate in the spirit. Deny the flesh. If you just draw near to God, what does that look like? Start your day in prayer, worship, reading God's word. Open up, talk to him in prayer. Ask him what you can do for him. Ask God to convict you. Psalm 139, 23 and 24. Search me, Lord, know my anxious thoughts. Test me and point me on the path of everlasting. And when you feel that conviction, when you feel that sting, correct it. Have the discipline and rebuke laziness and do what God says. And I promise you that deep end of the water ain't so bad after all.